session will go far, right? So yes,
thank you,
over
Seema.
to
You've
Mala.
always been very kind. And if Seema says you have to show up for the webinar, I had to like throw everything away and just show up. So I am here. So Seema, I hope this will be
Thank you so much.
an effective session for all of us.
It'll be great. It'll be great.
Okay, so can we start, Seema?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I would actually love to see your faces. Maybe I'm a visual person, so I'd love to see your lovely faces and interact with you. So if you can, and if you're comfortable, this is a safe space. Let's look at each other and yeah, have a super duper session. All righty. Okay, amazing. So if I'd like to understand, what do you want to accomplish by the end of the session? You could either type it in or share it with me vocally. What are you looking to understand specifically? I mean, Seema has given me a background. I've looked at the Excel sheet, but I'd like to hear from you.
Yeah, hi, Mala.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Sunita.
No, Geeta.
Yeah, hi, Mala. It's Geeta here.
Hi, Geeta.
Thank you for being here again. And we have all seen the TED Talks and the YouTube videos, and very inspiring. Can I just say that it was such an out-of-the-box thinking, and just totally loved it. So thank you for being here. I think all of us kind of, I mean, at least a few of us, we've been having chats in our groups that we know that we got on the bandwagon of, okay, AMA and psychology, and let's do that, and, you know, without a clear idea as to where we're going with it. And to be honest, even for me, I was, the idea was to just do a postgraduate degree. And I've already done a psychology BA as well. And I've done a counseling degree diploma. So this seemed like a natural progress because I just realized how much I loved studying or, you know, learning new things. But when we were doing the assignments, and again, I'm telling this to everybody, when I was doing the assignments and trying to read everything in all the subjects, it was just mind blowing. I mean, I just loved it. I mean, just fell in love with it. I mean, it's now I'm not doing it because of any postgraduate or anything like that. It's just because of the information, just getting to know the human mind just in general. And at the end of the session, what we want to know is maybe more of an understanding as to our options. Like where can we go from here? Though I have already given a few questions in the Excel sheet. As we progress, I will definitely have a few more questions for you. But I think just a guidance to say that, you know, guys, okay, whoever has done MA psychology is here, is doing this, like in different fields, or in coping with maybe with different ages, and whether it's adolescence, adulthood, or anything like that. So just to give us an options, because sometimes what happens, because while I was doing my assignment, I realized what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go with it. So while you're talking, I think that clarity might come more when you're giving us these options.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Geeta.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to share?
Yeah, Sunita here.
Yes,
Hi,
Sunita.
can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, who spotlighted me? All right. So my thing is that, you know, career guidance is what I'm looking for over here, where I can help children out or adolescents out. I'm into counseling already, and I really enjoy the process, but I like working a lot with adolescents and, you know, youngsters basically. So I feel career guidance is something which I should know. I would like to know how do you take it forward? What is your USP, like, in the sense, what do you look for in adolescents and children, and how do you actually you know, chalk out a way and take the career guidance forward? So I'm looking at that angle basically, not personally per se, to help other people,
To help the next gen. So Generation Z is who you are largely interacting with. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Anybody else? You can feel free to type in your inputs as well.
Hi, Mala. Yes. Thanks for giving us this session. And so my query, what I'm looking at is what specialization to pick in, you know, second year, because there is counseling, clinical, and organizational counseling. So, and how that would pan out moving forward. Okay. That's one of my queries. And is it okay? Because I am, for me, personally, I'm interested in clinical psychology. But is
Okay.
there an option to move to counseling after completing, MA in clinical psychology? Is that possible?
Okay.
And with clinical psychology, is there further, going into like forensic or, those fields, are they related to clinical or counseling to move forward with?
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Noted. Sundari?
Can I? Yeah, the
Mala
Sundari here.
here.
Good evening. Thank you, Mala, for being here. So, do you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, I do. Loud and clear. Yes.
Okay, okay. So what I want to know is, see, basically I am from HR background. I'm working in IBM. So human resource interaction is already in my career I'm happening, but I wanted to pursue in the counseling line. That is the reason I choose MA psychology. So I want to understand, other than having this MA degree in psychology, what other things to become a professional counseling line. So what are the things I need to do?
Okay.
In second year, what are they rate on? Any other certification? So I don't know. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Thank you, Sundari. So I think I've kind of got a gist of it. If there are any other inputs, please put that in the Zoom chat, and I think we can get started. All right. Okay. Catherine, you want to say something?
Yes.
I have something specific.
Right.
Already. Hello. Am I audible, Mala?
Yes, you are. It was a little
Yeah.
patchy, but I think now you're good.
Okay. I have taken psychology. I want to pursue movement therapy. So
Okay.
how do I get there, or what is the Indian system to get there? A little more information on what is the present status of movement therapy in India, what is the scope, in case you know, or at least some contacts for me to know about that would be great.
Okay. All right. Are you on LinkedIn? Soundarya, are you on LinkedIn?
No.
Okay. My first recommendation was to get onto LinkedIn.
No.
Type movement therapist. I think that's a great start. Okay. All right. Okay then. Catherine, are you done?
Okay.
You wanted to share something?
Yes, yes. If I can, yeah. So we are in the corporate world for almost now, and we cannot move, being at the stuck situation that we don't know where we are and we are already there, and we can't move about immediately, but yeah, for at least next 5-10 years we're going to be there. So keeping that in mind, and have completed DCS with Banjara, basic counseling part of it. Would also was interested in if industrial psychology would be good at this point of time, because keeping my next 10 years in mind, so that because I cannot immediately switch to any other line. So will that be of a good idea, or that's my confusion? If you can help me with that, that would be helpful.
Okay. Fabulous, fabulous. So I pretty much see that there are two trends here in the type of questions. One is you want to discover more for yourself in terms of the way forward, and the other is understand about the future of work, Generation Z, and how you can work with them closely. Right. And I'm hoping to answer most of it, but I must warn you that a lot of what I will share will be very outlandish and might really challenge years of what you believe in. But again, I'm just going to leave the ball in your court, and you can take it the way you please. All right. Okay, so let's get started then. I'm going to be sharing some slides. Again, like I said, I'm very visual, so I thrive on visual learning. So, all right. So we're going to discuss about the future of work today. And this is my favorite topic in the world, because I think this is the coolest time to exist, minus the pandemic, of course. Yes. So what comes to your mind when you hear future of work? What are the words that come to your mind?
I think passion.
Passion. Okay.
Accomplishment, maybe. Satisfaction.
Accomplishment.
Job
Okay.
satisfaction.
Yeah, job satisfaction.
Job
yes.
satisfaction. Okay.
Skill-based work.
Skill-based work. Wonderful. Whoever said that. Fabulous. Skill-based work. Very good. What else?
And jobs that currently exist. So soon there will be jobs that we can't even imagine that it would exist years from now.
Yeah. So new types of jobs will come in, and the jobs that currently exist may become obsolete. Okay. What else?
Gig workers.
Gig workers. Wonderful. I love it. Okay. I'd love to hear more about that in a bit. Okay. What else? Can
I
you
think
give
a
me
lot
some
of
adjectives?
exploration.
Exploration.
Find
I
out
love
different
that.
things. Yeah.
Whoever said it, I can't see all of you because I can only look at my screen, but whoever said it, fabulous. In
Okay,
fact,
this is
nobody
me,
has
if you
ever
can
said
see me.
exploration with respect to the future of work,
Okay.
which I think is like really, really cool that you're thinking along those lines. What else?
It could be the future of work could be a paradigm shift from what currently we perceive as work, job, employee, to what actually will be work where you can connect with what you're working about.
True, very true, very true.
As you
Critical
said in one of your
analysis.
TED talk, yellow collar jobs.
Yellow collar jobs. Thank you so much. We're going to talk about yellow collar a little more in detail.
And I think also, it's going to be more of an employees, whatever field rather than an employer's.
So, okay, are you trying to indicate that employees will be entrepreneurs in their own merit, like solopreneurs?
No, I'm saying even in a work environment, the employee holds all the cards rather than the employer. I think there'll be a shift. I think there already is, because they look at the employees being happy to get the work done, and not just the amount of hours we put in, it's the quality of the work. So I guess
Interesting. Okay. So like y'all have mentioned over the last 1 minute that a lot of things are going to change, which means we don't actually have a reference point to compare the future of work with, right? Which is, I'm glad we're all on the same page, because like I said, a lot of what I'm going to share is going to be outlandish and might be a little out of our comfort zone, but that is what the future of work holds for us. All right, so let's get started. I'm just going to give you a quick introduction about myself. My screen froze. Can someone please stop my screen sharing?
It's Mala. Hi, Ritika here. It's you who have to do it.
So because my screen has frozen, you'll have to go to the participants, go to my name.
Done.
Oh, yes, you did it. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, it just keeps happening lately. All right, let me try again, and we should be good to go, hopefully. Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Okay.
All right. So
Mala, can I add one more point here?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Inclusion in multiple ways, right? It could be a mix or hybrid of two different careers, and inclusion in terms of different population. I mean, like this with disability, or so both ways of inclusion.
Yeah. I think for the first time, we're actually going to move to a world where we're going to belong rather than fit in, which is what makes the future of work very exciting, right? Okay, thank you so much for adding that. That was actually very beautiful. Yeah. Okay, so let me share a little about me. You may have in the TEDx talk understood that in the year 2009, I passed out as the best engineering student of Karnataka. Right? The reason I share this is because despite being great at something, I chose to do something more. Right? In fact, it happened because in my final year of engineering, I got the opportunity to intern at my dream company, which was a Japanese company, for 30 days. And I detested those 30 days, and I realized and discovered so much more about myself than just being an engineer, which is why I decided to take the entrepreneurial route. Of course, it didn't happen immediately. Like someone said, it's all about exploration, right? I explored a bit, actually a lot. And then I stumbled upon being an entrepreneur, right? So one of the game-changing moments in my life was when I was interacting with a lot of students, and the common question that kept coming back was, how do I follow my passion? It seems to be very difficult. And that was a question that I had for myself because I didn't have enough strong points to convince my parents as to why I should take the road less traveled. Okay, some of you may have faced it in your life at different points, right? So I asked myself, how do I know for sure? How do I make a case for myself to tell people, my parents and the world, that you can follow your passion and you can be uber successful? Which is when I realized, hey, let's reach out to different people who are successful. Okay, there are definitely successful musicians, there are definitely successful sports people. What is it that these people have done that have made them take the road less traveled and become successful? So for about a year or so, I interviewed various people from various fields. These are some of the people I had the opportunity of either interacting with, shadowing, working with, etc. And that's how I wrote the book, I Love Mondays. Right? But this was way back. And I think a lot of things have changed from that because the world's like fast changing. And in the year 2017 is when I spoke about the future of work, which is yellow collar careers, which we will talk about in just a bit. All right. Okay. So what does the future of work look like? Everybody remembers this? Phone booth. Yeah. Had two functionalities. You can make calls. You can receive calls. Very simple. Okay, of course, you have to step out of your house. It's very inconvenient and all of that, right? Then we had the phone inside our house, right? So this had many functionalities, not just make calls and answer calls, but it also doubled up as a phone book and sometimes voicemail, right? And maybe some small little games. And you could kind of take it around in your house to a certain extent, right? So evolution. And finally, of course, we have the smartphones, right? You can pretty much do anything from order food to transfer payments to, I mean, everything possible, right? To me, where we are today is like the mobile phone. Careers and the world of work has evolved from a phone booth all the way to a smartphone or maybe even a smartwatch. All right. So what are the three primary things that have changed? Number one is technology has become way more sophisticated. Convenience. I mean, we're all working from home. Who would have thought about doing a webinar from 7 to 8, right? You should be chilling, but convenience also comes with its own like pitfalls, right? And then multifunctionality. So the world of work has changed in these three levels as well. Okay, since most of you have watched my TEDx talk, just bear with me while I quickly just recap on how careers have evolved. So we have blue collar workers, right? Can you give me examples of blue collar workers?
Daily wage workers.
Drivers.
Yes, drivers. Anybody who would exchange physical labor for money. Physical labor for money, right? And then we had the era of white collar workers. Oh my God, my laptop's stuck again. Sorry, you'll have to stop screen sharing again. Please bear with me. I have to get a new laptop. Oh, oops. Okay.
Don't worry, I'm there to moderate. So just
thank
let me
you.
know
Thank you
whatever.
so much. Thank you so much. All right.
Of technology, we are still facing problems then.
Yeah, totally. So next we had the white collar era, right? Again, can you give me examples of white collar jobs?
Knowledge from money, that is CEOs.
Doctors,
Doctors, lawyers, teachers,
engineers,
chartered accountants, etc. So actually kind of the world we live in, sort of largely white collar. Yeah, most of us have white collar jobs, right? Including the job of a psychologist actually, right? And then came a whole different era, which is yellow collar jobs, right? Now, yellow collar comprises both white and blue collar jobs. But the nature of the jobs, the competence that is required by these workers are very, very different because it's a whole different world, right? What do yellow collar workers exchange in place of money?
You said it, competence.
Competence, skill, the ability to get the job done, right? Okay, fabulous. So moving forward, right? We are going to specifically talk about 5 trends of the future that we can apply to career decisions we are making, or when working with Gen Z, we can prepare them for these trends as opposed to the trends that we are familiar with. All right. Okay. So let's get started with the first one. All right. Again, I've spoken about this. I'd love for all of you who ask questions about what should I do after an MA psychology? Is there an option in this field specifically to focus on this question? All right. Remember, I speak about the wrong question that we've been asked for generations. What do you want to be when you grow up? And these had standard answers. I want to be a teacher. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a doctor. But like one of you said earlier, most of the careers that we're talking about will not even exist. And there are new careers that will be formed. So we are actually asking the wrong question. We should replace this question with, what do you want to do when you grow up? Okay. In fact, I call this the yellow collar list. And I would encourage all of you to make your own yellow collar list. What are all the things that you want to do at work? This could be a list of activities, right? So do you envision yourself sitting in front of a laptop and writing an article? Do you envision yourself standing on stage and addressing a group of people? Okay. Do you want to make people laugh? Do you want to spend your time listening to people and problem solving? What are all the activities that you wish to do if you were to have a job between 9 and 6? That is called the yellow collar list. Okay. Now, connecting this with jobs that you wish to pursue, which you're contemplating, is to look at the job description. What does this particular person do from 9 to 6? Does this match my yellow collar list? If yes, well, that's like the most obvious way forward for you. Does this make sense? Are you with me?
Could you just repeat it
All right.
one more time, Mala? I'm still a little unclear. I didn't get what you meant.
Yeah. So the yellow collar list essentially is a list of all the activities that you would wish to do when you work, whatever job you take up. Let's say you want to be an industrial psychologist, right? Like, keep the title of industrial psychologist aside and ask yourself, what are all the things I want to do in my 9 to 6 job, as an example. Now, you will take the job of an industrial psychologist who works for company X. All right, and identify what they actually do between 9 and 6. And does their list match my yellow collar list? If yes, that's probably the job for you. If no, then you have a reality check of what that career really is, which is what is our job as counselors to kind of help other individuals who are making career decisions. All right. So the first trend is essentially to ask the right question, which is, what do you want to do when you grow up or when you start working? All right. Second, be a jack of all trades and a master of a few. Okay. So I think someone very beautifully mentioned that we will be taking on multiple careers, multiple roles, etc. So that's what this means. All right. So let's take an example. In the year 2009, we had 2 jobs: the job of pilot, the job of a photographer or cinematographer, right? And in 2021, both the jobs were fused into one. The same person plays the role of the pilot, and the same person is also the photographer or cinematographer. So we're having one job, again, a new career that's born, okay, which has the fusion of multiple careers. Okay, let's take another example. Another example is in the software world. I think a lot of you mentioned that you work at IBM, etc. Right? So you would know that you would either have somebody who would design how the website would look, and then there would be somebody who would code, and then there would be somebody who would decide where that data needs to sit. That's the architecture. Okay. Now there is a new title called full stack developer. So that same person has to design, has to code, and has to design the architecture. All right. What this means in the world of education, which is thanks to the NEP, is that science, commerce, and humanities will become the same. There will be no difference between the science stream, commerce stream, and humanities. And that's what the NEP, or the National Education Policy, proposes, right? And a lot of international schools already follow that. They have about 5 groups, and everybody studies everything from science to commerce to humanities. All right. Are you with me till now? Give me a thumbs up if you are. All right, fabulous people. Okay, so that was the second trend. The third trend, again, this is my favorite trend. As you know, psychologists, we have the left brain and the right brain. Of course, there are some theories that are debatable. I'm going to talk about things that I have seen that has worked, right? So what do you think the left brain largely does?
Math.
It's more analytical.
Very analytical. Very good. What else?
Logic, reasoning.
Logic, reasoning, super.
Planning.
Planning, organizing, attention to
Analyzing.
detail.
Hmm.
Yeah. What does the right brain stand for?
Creativity, innovation,
top.
flow of
Or does
thought.
it seem like a class quiz or something like that? Because all of you are smiling away.
Everything else.
Creativity.
Visualization.
It's frozen, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Mala, are you
Yes.
around?
It's frozen, ma'am. You frozen.
Seema, maybe you can just ping her.
Yeah. I think she'll join in. Mala?
Yes. Yeah. So we obviously want to build a culture of right brain dominant individuals, right? So because everything that the left brain does can be done by machines. Right? So let's take an example. This is Foxconn. Foxconn is the organization, the company that basically makes hardware for phones, largely iPhones, right? And this is how their manufacturing unit looked in 2010. And this is how it looks today. Okay. Everything that the left brain does can be done by machines. And unfortunately, the largest part of our educational system focuses on building the left brain skills. Right? Which is where, again, the concept of multiple intelligence comes in, which I'll talk about in a bit. So for those of you who are curious about knowing about the right brain, left brain, and just about, this is a fabulous book on in psychology. It's called A Whole New Mind. If you haven't read it, please pick it up. It is absolutely fantabulous. And lots of examples, again, about the future of work and how the right brain skills need to be leveraged, etc. Okay, I'd like to share another example of what I mean by a right brain dominant individual. Okay, so we've all taken an Uber ride. At the end of an Uber ride, we rate the driver. What do we rate the driver on?
His driving skills.
Experience.
Experience. How would you know experience?
Depends on
Service.
how he speaks and how he treats the customer.
How he speaks, how he treats the customer.
Yeah, how he
wonderful.
behave with the customer.
Overall conduct. His
Yeah.
overall conduct.
His speed
Overall
of
service
driving.
provided.
Largely the kind of
Overall.
service, how he made us feel,
Have service.
Yes.
whether he was punctual, did he ask you to cross the road and get into the cab, or did he come to you? You know, so many small things, right?
And it's more about the
And
personal
driving skills.
side of the driver.
And driving skills. I'm
Driving
glad someone
skills.
mentioned that. Yeah.
It's a
Like
personal
not being rash.
It's more of the personal side of the driver. So I would say the right brain is more about personal development.
Absolutely. Essentially, we should only be rating the driver on taking us from point A to point B safely. Right? But that's not what we rate them on. That could be one factor, but largely we rate them on everything else besides that driving skill. That is what is right brain intelligence. Okay, and that is why we need people, because everything else machines will do. Right? Okay. All right. So here are some of the right brain and left brain intelligences. I'd like to specifically talk about a few. Time awareness is a left brain intelligence, which is why when we see extremely creative people, they are in that flow.
Mom is stuck again.
I think she'll join in.
Yeah, she joined in last time. Let's just wait.
Yeah.
I'm going on adjusting my Wi-Fi, thinking that, my screen is getting stuck.
Exactly.
Terribly sorry about this. I have no clue why my internet is crashing so
Mala,
much. Am I back? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
As long as you keep coming back, we are okay with it.
Yeah, are
Yes,
you sure about
agreed.
that? Or are you like, oh my God,
Agreed,
let's
agreed.
scoot. Anyway, she crashed and left the meeting.
No,
Okay.
not at all.
All right. Thank you for being so patient. I really appreciate it. All right. So this is where multiple intelligence comes into the picture. I love Howard Gardner for this. I think this is the coolest thing that existed. And a lot of international schools, in fact, the IB curriculum very, very proactively uses multiple intelligence from the lowest grade. Right. So this is a combination of both left brain and right brain intelligences. And the beauty of multiple intelligence in its application form is we're not looking at what the child likes, but what the child can do. Am I constantly counting stairs and looking at patterns, which is a behavior, is what the child is doing, as opposed to, I like music. That's an interest. Like is an interest, but behavior is action. And that is why multiple intelligence is totally awesome sauce, right? So this is the third point, which is what we covered just now, the third trend, all right, which is right brain dominant intelligences. The fourth trend, somebody spoke about gig economy. I'd love to hear from you. What is your understanding of gig?
So it's basically like we encourage people who are flexible in terms of their overall terms of conditions of employment. We call it. They won't be called as a full employment kind of it. They will be. We will be utilizing them less like a freelancers.
Like a freelancer. Actually, that's a pretty good analogy, right? Could anyone tell me what's the difference between a freelancer and a gigger?
Yeah, so a gigger is basically who offers his or her skill set for a particular period of time. So we have this contract working, which is coming up, which is opening up in India. So let's say if you are a web developer and I have a project and I need your skills only for, let's say, a period of 6 months or 7 months. So I hire only for that particular period. And that web developer is only joining my organization for a period of 6 to 7 months because he is exchanging his skill set for a project which I'm taking up. So there is no obligation for the person to, continue working. He can leave within that time period or after his contractual employment ends. So this is largely to do with skills. So you have a lot of customer service and success openings. You have a lot of skill-based openings which are being offered in the industry. And it's very new in India, very, very new. So people are still not open to, kind of doing that, yeah.
And how is it different from being a freelancer?
So freelancer is a person who can call yourself as an entrepreneur. I choose whom I want to work for, right? So freelancer can do multiple projects. So I can offer my skills of, let's say, web development, like we spoke about a full stack developer. I can do a full stack development with A company and I can also do it with B company. So, but I determine my terms and conditions, I determine my fees. Whereas in gig employment, there is a fixed fee which the company hires you, saying this is what we can pay for you and this is what is available. So you take it or leave it. Whereas a freelancer can still demand that this is what I come for and this is what I can offer.
Okay, fair. Almost there. Almost there. Okay, so for those of you who are working as career counselors, what is your objective when you're working with someone? What is the outcome you want them to accomplish?
To find a job that they are passionate about or they enjoy doing.
Lovely, lovely, Vasudha. So to find a job that they're passionate about and they enjoy doing. Again, that a job has changed. So the outcome of a career counselor is to help them find jobs that they're passionate about, that they would want to pursue. So this is where gig comes into the picture, okay? So a freelancer essentially exchanges one skill, which could be full stack development, content writing, etc., with multiple companies. One skill, okay, with multiple companies, while a gigger would exchange multiple skills. So I could be a full stack developer, I could be a content writer, and I could be a public speaker. And I want to do all three because I'm good at it and I love it. But I can also make a career in all three domains at the same time. And that is what gig economy is about. Isn't that exciting? Like, we don't have to actually stress about choosing that one career for the rest of our lives.
Where were you? Where were you when I was getting out there?
Exactly.
Mala, see, I come from, I mean, this gig economy, what you're talking about is something which is very new, but unfortunately, what it actually means, what you said, and what is available right now in the market is totally different, because people are still exploring, what it is. Because while I was on a career break, I mean, I did have an entrepreneurial journey, and while I was on a career break, and I did apply for a couple of, gig jobs, but it was nothing, what I understood of a gig job and what was being offered was like nothing that excites. It's the same thing for actual employment. Okay, you have this skill, this is what we are doing, we are hiring for our client here, you come for this period, and it's clearly contractual employment for a period of 1 year. But what you're talking about actually, in India, it has to open up to a great extent, because the reason why I'm telling you, I don't know what your experience has been, because I also am a recruitment consultant. I work with people looking for jobs, and I was an educator wherein I've used Howard Gardner's intelligence as one of my pedagogy during my school time.
Lovely.
School time.
Awesome. Okay.
So I mean, there's so much people are doing using Howard Gardner's intelligence, which is not being used correctly. It's just like using jargons and just like, okay, we can, I have an experience about the person who sold me Howard Gardner's intelligence was saying that, we rate the child whether logic smart or not. I said, how can you rate the 2-year-old whether the child is logic smart or, kinesthetically oriented? I mean, a 2-year-old will be explorative. He will be or logic smart at the same time. He will be musically oriented at the same time. He or she will like to be, in the environment. You cannot differentiate or put a child in a box saying that this is how it is. It only happens when the children grow up, right? And when they know what their interests are, and that's how we can guide them. So
absolutely.
And I do get a lot of chance to speak to a lot of people in my current profession who are clueless what they need to do. They're just doing it because it's earning them some income, and they're just stuck there, including me, because this is giving me income while I don't want to be. I would love to be a gig worker, but yeah, this is where the income is today, and so we go with the flow.
See, so this is the opportunity for all of you who are doing MA psychology. There are so many unhappy people out there who want to pursue multiple careers and who do not know how to go about with the gig economy. Right?
Correct.
So that's, career counseling done.
Just to
add 2 points.
When you told that, how much fun to know so many things and do so many, I remembered Seema when she wrote, let us learn all the 3 in the group so that, we will know counseling as well as, clinical and it was similar to that. So it's exciting. Yes.
Yes. I can sense your excitement in that voice.
Just to add a couple of more points,
Can I just say something?
Okay.
No, I was just thinking, Mala, if we can just. No, I was just saying that you complete the presentation and then probably we can open it for discussion, because we might get distracted with the, the pointers. So we'll have your presentation first and then let us, discuss. That's what I feel. Yeah.
Absolutely. I just want to hear from the person who's been trying to speak from that time. Can we just allow her to contribute, please? I don't know who it is.
It's Archana. Thanks, Mala. Yeah, so I want to make 2 points. One is, I think, like somebody mentioned, this gig economy, right? It is being confused with services company, because the services company also they work on contract basis, provide certain skills, right? And it is very common in IT. We all, whenever we have this contract workforce are hired, whenever, there is, crunch on finances and everything, right? But there is a difference between gig economy versus the services. That's one point. And second thing, I was just reading somewhere that we are moving from industrial economy to knowledge economy. So
Actually,
I think that's where.
That's my next point. Thank you for setting context.
Okay, so I was reading it somewhere and I found it very apt while we were discussing about gig that, like somebody was saying, where were you when we were, out of college and looking for a career? That we were in the industrial economy that time. So we would just want to get into routine jobs, just make sure finances are taken care of. But now it is not industrial anymore. It is more to do with sharing knowledge, sharing skills. So we are moving into the next, zone of economy.
Very true, very true. Yeah. In fact, we were in the industrial economy. We then moved to the knowledge economy. And now, which is the yellow collar world or the future of work, we're moving into the skills economy, which brings me to my next point, which is, skills versus knowledge. Okay, this is an extremely debatable topic, but let me just ask you, do you think if this particular individual, okay, would want to, would say that they are a fitness coach and would want to train you? Do you think you would believe this individual? Why?
Yeah. Because she herself looks fit.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, exactly.
Visually
convincing.
Work on it.
Yes.
Okay, so you are
the presentation of her is good here.
Okay,
it's been presented well.
Okay, well presented.
Not enough information to make that decision.
No, not enough info to make the decision. Okay, what if you just saw a certificate by someone saying, I've done this particular course, I'm into fitness training, that's all, certificate, which basically validates the knowledge this person has versus a person who is fit?
You still can't take their word for it. I am fat and I still have a fitness training certificate. I do not know if I'm fit to do the job until unless I've practically done it or I've helped someone do it.
Absolutely.
You should have hands-on experience. Yeah, hands-on experience matters here for the role that you play.
Right. The other day I was just asking myself, all the doctors I visited in my life, right? I have never double-checked if they have done an MBBS or an MD. Never. It's only through reference that I've gone to a doctor. Which is interesting. And we don't even validate whether the drivers actually have a driving license. The people we entrust our lives with. Right? Yeah. Now, this is not to rule out the fact that knowledge and certifications are not important. But that is so minimal today. Right? In fact, we love the way we hire people in our organizations because it is so hands-on. Right. And this morning, we were hiring a counselor for our team, the other company that we run. And on the spot, she had to do a mock with a teenager. Right. So we want to see what people can do as opposed to what people know. And this is not just my organization. This is changing across. Right. So we've moved into the skills economy. So how can we build skills? Do an online course.
Perfect.
Practice makes perfect, but if you practice the wrong thing, you will become perfect in that wrong thing.
I think
volunteering and
apply what you learn actually. Apply and test if your learning is correct. If it holds good for a population.
How do you test it?
You just need to
internships.
Internships or actually observations. Get it into practicality somewhere.
Good guide.
A good guide
to assess and provide feedback.
Okay, fair enough.
Or you purposefully create opportunities where you can test those skills.
I love it. That is fabulous. What would you tell a teenager to do? How can they
just
build
try
their
it.
skills?
Try it
Get an
out.
internship.
Try is worth.
First
Okay,
try and
internship,
see.
fabulous.
It's worth a try.
Okay.
Trial and error and
Yeah.
improvement. Trial, error, improvement.
Trial, error, improvement. This is a concept that I actually picked up from one of my mentees a few years ago. He always set aside time, like we set aside time for homework or working out or cooking and stuff like that. Okay. He would always set aside time for personal projects. And he had like a mega list of things he wanted to do. He wanted to build make one animation series. He wanted to make emojis. He wanted to write a book, a whole bunch of personal projects. And these personal projects were a reflection of the skills and interests he had. And since the time I heard that, I am a big fan of personal projects. And I keep telling teenagers that I work with that, hey, listen, if you want to, let's say, get into photography, all right, I'd love for you to create an Instagram page dedicated to photography, respect to food photography, right? So they also get to use Instagram more effectively. And they get real-time feedback, not just from family members, but from everybody else. So the motivation to learn and improve will be way higher. Right? Okay. So personal projects are a great way to build skills. Okay. And second is internships. Like I told you, right? I think I made the biggest decision of my life because of that internship that I did. And that was a game changer. And that's exactly what we're doing through Teen Interns. It's an internship platform that we established, helping teenagers do internships in the real world. All right. So finally, just to summarize, what are the 5 trends of the future we need to look out for? Okay. Number 1, either this is for yourself when you're trying to figure out what you want to do next, or when you're working with other people and helping them figure out what they need to do. Number 1 is change the questions we ask. Instead of asking, what do you want to be when you grow up? Create a yellow collar list, which is what do you want to do when you grow up? Number 2, we're living in a world where we have to have multiple skills because we're looking at jobs that are being fused, and one individual will have to do multiple things. The third is being right brain dominant, because everything the left brain does can be done by machines. So the only way humans will be humans and still dominate the world is by leveraging our right brain skills. So if robots are taking over our jobs, somebody is creating those robots. I want to be that person. That's the idea. All right. From one career that we want to pursue for the rest of our lives, we're going to be pursuing multiple careers at the same time, which is the gig economy. And finally, the only thing that matters at the end of the day is skills, which will lead to results. Nothing else. Nothing else. All right. So with this, could someone stop screen sharing, please? So with this, I would like to rest my discussion and leave you with the one thing that I've always believed in, which is we anyway have to think. Why not think big? We anyway have to work. Why not do what we love? And that's the world that at least I want to build and I want to live in. All right. So anybody wants to add any inputs? Any questions?
Mala, would you?
You're on
muted,
mute,
Seema.
Okay, all right. I'm saying, would you like to share how you do it with the teenagers? What is the process you follow? Can you just quickly tell us that?
I'm not a huge fan of assessment because, again, I think assessment is very, very old school and only measures left brain stuff. So I like to see what teenagers are capable of doing. The most common thread that I see, and this is not just with teens, with adults as well. We say we want to be fit, but we don't go to the gym. So my intention is to be fit, but my behavior is not hitting the gym, right? So that's the gap. So a large part of the career guidance that I do involves hands-on practical work that teenagers do. For example, if I know that there is a child who is extremely good with communication, I will give them projects that are simulations of careers that require them to speak. For example, I'll ask them to create their own podcast. I will ask them to make a YouTube video. Okay, I will ask them to do a demo session for a group of people on how they will be teaching them on a particular topic. All of these are career simulations that the child will try out and figure out if this is what they want to do or not. And most of the times when they procrastinate on certain tasks, right, I know that that is not what they're inclined towards. The tasks that get done the first are the ones that they're absolutely gung-ho about and they love. Right? So largely, I look at eliminating interest and fascination and identifying what they are truly passionate about, because that's the only thing that translates into action. So it's very project-based assessment. That's something that I do, and it has worked for me. But everybody has their own style. So whatever works and gets the results, I think it's good to go.
Right,
I have a
Mala?
question, Mala.
Right.
I'm so sorry, Seema.
Yeah,
Seema,
I'll
one
just
question.
complete
Sure,
this.
sure, sure. Please go ahead.
What
Please go
I
ahead.
remember of Mala, how you went about with Raghav also. So basically, I remember you spending a lot of time with him to understand him, to talk to him, to probably understand the background. You also spoke with parents, you spoke with me, I remember, and so you actually understood where he's coming from. Right, that's how I remember you, because this was 1.5 years back. So you started with that, and then it was between you and the mentee. It was you and Raghav. I was out of the picture, and you made him talk a lot, explore a lot, and like you said, you made him do things, you made him do tasks and show it to you. So, and then in some cases you also show it to an expert. You have an expert from the industry. I remember if it is music, you send that piece to A.R. Rahman. I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying that. I would want you to say where you send it, but yeah, a cartoonist, you would send it to the right place. Similarly, acting, direction, whatever it is. So you got an expert to evaluate the project also. And you spent a good number of months, I think almost 6 months or so, or something like that. I don't remember exactly. So it was a very meticulous. So last May, we made a grand entry. I remember you called both the parents and you showed us the plan, that this is plan A. This is what, and it was not one plan. It was like, a backup plan also. And how exactly will that happen, right? In a very realistic way. So I thought that was a very, I was very impressed with the way you went about it. And if you would like to add something else that you did, because this is all I saw as a parent. So
thank you, Seema. And honestly, we've been very, very privileged that we've only attracted parents who truly entrust their kids and do not micromanage. And that's exactly what Seema did. And for lack of a better word, she was the ideal customer that you can get. Yeah, for lack of a better word. But Seema, it was wonderful working with RP. I love him like crazy, and we're constantly in touch. Yeah, I think so. What I did with the RP last year took 6 months, right? Now we're able to do it in 8 weeks, and that's what experience helps us do. And we're able to do it in groups. Okay, I don't know. Next year we might be doing something differently. So there's constant innovation always.
And another thing you did was to get all of them together on a platform and showcase like what he did. He showed it with the other co-mentees and they showed it. So you were also, there was a peer evaluation of the project as well. And a very critical, I think people did also say very clearly what they liked and what they did not like about the project, right? So that gives you a very realistic picture of where you stand. You're not in a fantasy world as a teenager, but you actually know what you're good at. So I really liked that as well.
Thank you, Seema. Thank you.
Mala, what age would you say we have to start, introducing our children to, segregating their interests and fascinations to their, what they're really interested in?
It genuinely depends on the child. We've been thrown off guard because there are 11, 12-year-olds who are, oh my God, amazing. Like, I'm not even kidding you. But again, there are some 16-year-olds who have just started exploring because they didn't have that opportunity to explore. So it depends on the individual. However, I think the best approach for any parent and for all parents here is to keep that exploratory journey alive for as long as possible. But let it not be exploration just theoretically. Let it be exploration practically, because then automatically that filtering will happen for the individual. because they will not gravitate towards, I'm interested in video editing, but if I have to edit a video and if I'm not doing it, I'll probably take that out of my interest list. Right? So let it be practical exploration as opposed to theoretical, if that answers.
I'm also concerned about, like, when you say internship and all, right? Very influential place, right? There are a lot of people over there who will influence them. So, and it's very easy for the child to get sidetracked into thinking that this is what I want to do, because those individuals might be very enthusiastic about what they do, right? And then once the child gets into it, and then they find that, you know, they're not in place. So I'm a little concerned about the influence they will get from internships and all.
See, that's the learning opportunity, right? My internship did not teach me that this is the place that I want to be. It taught me what I disdained, which then gave me the opportunity to navigate towards what I liked. So we always tell parents and teenagers that there is a real possibility that you will not like this internship after you sign up. But our only prerequisite is you finish what you start, because that's who you are. Right. That is a non-negotiable. Right? So the next time when they're influenced by their peers, they will remember the experience of, oh my God, last time this is what happened. It was a painful experience of an internship. This time I'm going to evaluate and get into an internship that I want to do, not what my peers want me to do.
True.
Right, that should be the ideal result, but I don't know if that is going to happen every time. So
very individualistic, right? Yeah.
Vasudha, can we hear from you?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so sorry for interrupting the rest of you. See, my thing is, I have a lot of interests. I still do not know the best of my skills. I have quite a few interests. I did try to do content writing. I love baking. I am a baker, and all sort of things. I know how to sew. I know how to knit. I know how to crochet. A lot of things, but I do not know where my specificity lies. I do not know where exactly I'm good at after the entire of it, because I had done BHM. I had worked as a baker. I had done my internships as well. I'd done quite a couple of internships, and I loved baking, but I couldn't go ahead in it because of an accident, and I couldn't get back into that. So I had to choose another career, and I still, now that I want to help people and I still want to bake, I still don't understand as to where I stand. Is there something?
Then continue to help people. You can also bake, and you can also write, and you can sew.
My thing is there something that I can do in order to find out which one is my most dominant feature? As you said, jack of all trades, master of few. I want to know which are the few that I'm a master at.
Okay, I'm only going to make a recommendation. Okay, with that little information that I have about you, what I would do if I were you is I would make a list of 3 things that I think I am skilled at, which could be baking, sewing, and let's say content writing. And I would give myself a 10-day target, a goal, a project that I will accomplish using each of these skills. And I will allow myself a very short time, not 3 months and all of that, a very short time to be able to accomplish the small goal. And at the end of the 10 days, you will be able to understand how well the project came out. You can also get feedback from the relevant, credible people in that industry. Like if it's baking, ideally a professional baker, right? And then evaluate which one is dominant. So you will also know which one did you naturally gravitate towards in those 10 days, right? So it's really about setting a goal and tracking that behavior every day. You could try it if you would like.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Smala.
Yeah, thank you, Vasudha. Yes, Geeta?
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Vasudha. I think that was a very good question, and the question that I had as well. But going forward from there, I have a few things as well, but there are times like I like to paint. I'm an artist as well, and I like to write, and I have a blog as well. So there are times, especially in a creative way, there are times when I can just write like crazy, or there are times like right now, if you look at my background, it's all covered, but there are like 2-3 boards right now going on with all different kinds of media. And of course, I'm doing the counseling thing. But there are times when I don't paint for months together. But that is my passion. It's not like it's not my passion. I love. I mean, I can see myself when I'm 80 years old or when they're whatever, still doing it. So there are pockets of time, right? It's not like you've given you 10 days time. I won't be able to do that and this and everything in that particular time. There are pockets of creativity that happens, and there are dry periods where nothing happens as well. So then how will you able to,
So is this happening by chance or by choice?
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's the time as well, because when my kids are there, and I guess they're still not out of the house yet and things like that. Maybe if I had more time, yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, that is one. And this, I'm so glad you brought this up, Geeta, because when we're talking about multiple careers, right, it need not be multiple careers on this or every day that you pursue. Just like we have seasons, summer, winter, spring, you can also have through the year seasons where you can, one of your career interests will be dominant. Like, especially for those who act as freelance trainers, there are seasons when they have so many training opportunities. So it can also work out that way for you.
But won't it affect the career part? Because if even I have an Insta, which I've just started now, where you have to keep posting, you have to have new content constantly. It is
right.
You cannot have these periods of time where you're not posting anything, right?
Right. See, again, it's the environment where you are looking at doing this business. If, let's say, with respect to your painting, you were to supply your artwork to certain vendors, then it could be probably seasonal or project based, which means you may not need to be constantly involved in your Instagram page. So along with choosing what you want to do, how do you want to do it, in which environment is also important, which you could explore. Again, it all goes back to your yellow collar list. What are all the things you want to do?
Okay, thank you.
I have something to share here. I'm Rinku here. Talking about the the age that we were discussing. What is the age to start thinking about the career? With my experience, when I get these young adults as clients, they would be passionate about something from 15, 16. Passionate at, like, this is what the parents also tell me. And by the time they're 19, 20, suddenly they have lost interest, or what I would say is 20, what I assume it to be is the crossroads. So how do you take that? What is your view on that? That if you're passionate from 15, 16, 17 onwards on something, right from the 15, I would say, but by the time you're 20, 21, you suddenly want to do something else. So I want to know your view on that.
This is actually a very, very good point, Rinku. And I must tell you, I'm so glad you used the word young adults. I try so proactively to use it, and I end up saying teenagers. But I think the right word to use is young adults, like Rinku demonstrated today. Thank you, Rinku.
Because I have those clients who are saying that I would love to do that. For example, I have again, I was also going to say kid, but a young adult who was into badminton, and he was going to the state level, national level, and suddenly, because of this lockdown, though he has the opportunity to continue pursuing in the way of practice and be visible, but now he does not, he's not interested. And he is telling me apparently that maybe I'm at the crossroad, maybe now I know my new calling, there is something else, I want to check that. So he doesn't even know what his new calling is, but he's sure he doesn't want to be a player.
Right. So in fact, it is very common in sports kids. And the reason being, let's say till 15, 16, it was all about passion. And then it became about performance. And they're two different things, right? When there's so much pressure on a teenager to perform, and they're trying everything that they can, but they're not able to reach those ultimate goals, it's only fair for them to burn out or decide that, I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm sure you would do this as well, Rinku. I would want to go to the root as to why they don't want to do this anymore. And I think that should be the solution. And it's okay if they don't want to do it. There are also cases where they've taken a break for a year, and then they are like, you know what, I miss this. I miss playing this sport. I miss singing. And this is what I want to do. That's okay. I think they have every right to figure that out. This afternoon, 3 to 4, I had a session with a teenager, and she was like, what I disdain about parents and adults is that they expect you to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life at 16. That is such an unfair expectation. And I agree. Right? Which is why gap years are such a fabulous thing to do when executed properly.
Yeah, also, I agree that it could be more about sports, but like I have another client who was doing engineering. So when she had to decide what engineering, computer, electric, suddenly she decided, no, I don't want to do engineering now. Now I want to do something else. So there are these adults, teenagers in the age group of 16 to 18, where they are like confused, but they want to do something. They enter the college, they take the admission, and I've so often heard that they back out after 6 months to a year.
Which is why, again, increasingly in India as well, shadow classes are becoming common. And I like to recommend to teenagers or young adults that look at the syllabus, go through the topics before you decide that this is what you want to study. Okay. And I think it's very important for us to build in them the fabric of you have to finish what you start. Right? I mean, of course, not when they're struggling to pass engineering and we're like, you have to finish what you start. That's not what I mean, but you get what I mean, right? So, yeah.
Thank you, Mala.
Yeah. Thank you for your inputs, Rinku. That was very, very useful.
Well, I have a quick question.
Yes,
thanks
Ishra.
for the insightful talk, and also thanks to Seema for organizing this. So I have, there are medical devices people use. I'm not sure if you use it to find the multiple intelligence and then probably map it to and all that. I mean, I want your view on that. Thank you.
I would prefer not to comment if that's okay.
Okay. You at least, if you can give a personal opinion at least. Okay.
Yeah, my
It's
opinion
okay, no
will be
problem.
of no use because I haven't used it. So, and
I get that.
I don't know of teenagers who've used it. So it's just going to be a biased, ineffective opinion. So I might not give it.
Thank you.
I completely second what Mala said because I have used it for myself and my child, and it is very vague. It doesn't work. It just shows. But if you look at how the children are evolving, or even how we have evolved, it's totally different. It is different. It just shows. And even the kind of career counseling options that are available, there are a lot of these organizations which train you to use certain psychometric tests, and it's again very left brain oriented. And I must tell you, Mala, the kind of job that you're doing, the kind of work that you're doing is just fabulous. And this is what career counseling is supposed to be, not what is being, because I did explore an option of career counseling wherein I did get engaged with an organization which told that, they're going to train us how to do career counseling for students. And what came out in terms of the way they were doing it, it was just again based on, a lot of psychometric tests based on which was again designed by a British society and brought in here, and again just these skills of more on the left brain oriented rather than how. So they just these things that they do is again your verbal reasoning, your analytical reasoning, your mathematical skills, and then you say, okay, the computer says these are the career options, so this is what you're supposed to choose. And so well, that is what is actually currently happening, but which is not career counseling. It is just again going and telling the child, okay, these are the options that's available for you, but it's not exploring, right? So the kind of work that Mala you're doing is fabulous, and I will connect with you positively.
Absolutely.
But I think for my child, it's very important. This is the way to actually guide children in terms of explore and let them decide what they want rather than you throwing out a report to them and say that, okay, these are the things. And in 1.5 hours, you can't do career counseling. 1.5 hours is again like an option which is being thrown, and that even we can sit and actually find out like what is there. So
I just want to add one point there,
Yes,
Mala. I think one thing that you mentioned, right, that insisting or stressing on finish what you started. I think that's probably very extremely important when this option opens up for teenagers, right? Given this option with the new NEP 2020 that is coming up, right, where they have options to explore multiple things at the same time, they should also have that they need to finish. It cannot be like, 6 months, I'm interested in this, I want to do this. And then next 6 months, oh, I want to do this. And eventually, it would be neither it will become master of none, slave of none, it will be none of none.
Right.
So finish what they've started, signed up for.
I
I
agree,
think that's
Archana, though I kind of
probably
differ with you. I think it's okay to explore something for 6 months and explore something different for 6 months. But you should finish that exploration. Even before you get halfway, you're like, oh, I'm done. And that is not cool.
agreed. Agreed, yes.
Mala,
Yeah,
sorry.
complete the exploration to make a decision whether to go in this direction or not is key.
Right.
Not dropping
Anyway,
it
the
in
next
between
5 to
and
10 years.
not if,
Sorry, Archana, please go on.
yeah, the same thing. I completely. Please go ahead.
So in the next 5 to 10 years, I think I remember in 2017, 18, I attended an education conference in Singapore, which had the leaders in education from different parts of the world. And everybody spoke about how higher education is going to be obsolete. We're not going to look at going into university, spending 3-4 years studying the same thing, which is already outdated. But these universities will be converted into accelerators, innovation cells, where people go into university to do stuff, to create stuff, to try out entrepreneurship. All that learning and all that they should do at home through online courses, which are short and sweet. So again, that is changing.
Mala, do you remember the movie Faltu in Hindi that has come out? If you haven't, no, it is something that is closely related to what you said right now. That they're going to the institutes are going to work out as accelerators, because I watched this quite a time ago, and it has actually shown how these people create a false institution, and they go about and try training everybody using the help of professionals in that particular field, in teaching them what they want to learn. It was actually a very beautiful movie. And in the end, it teaches a lesson to the parents as well, who think college education is important to find out which particular mainstream jobs you're fitting into. I would suggest everybody to go watch that movie called Faltu in Hindi.
Definitely check it out.
It's awesome, Vasudha. I watched the movie.
Yeah.
All right, Mala, sorry, we are extending the time. Like I had told you earlier, 1.5 hours to lagega, Mala, keep enough time. So thank you for extending it for us. We had some questions on the Google Sheet also. One of them was, if we want to become a career counselor, I mean, if I want to become a career counselor, what are the things I need to do? What are the skill set? And how do I need to keep upgrading myself? That was one. And there were a few more. So if we can just, also address those.
Yes, Seema, absolutely. So again, I'm going to tell you my approach of becoming a career counselor. I never did a course in career counseling. Everything that I have developed is by working with teenagers, young adults. Rinku, you're going to be in my mind every time I use young adults. All right. Yes, when I'm working with young adults, but I'm constantly learning, right? So my approach would be, number one is have a network of people who work in different professions. So somebody mentioned about movement therapy, right? I will not be in a position to answer about movement therapy because I don't know anything about it. So I do not have the right to talk about whether there is scope in it or not. But if I have a network of somebody who's into movement therapy, I can do the connection and I can be that mediator who will guide and facilitate a meaningful discussion between the two. Right? It's like how classroom learning has changed. Before, the teacher had to know it all and come and bombard that knowledge on the student. Now it's changed. The role of the teacher is to be that of a facilitator. So the role of the counselor now will be to listen, understand, and connect the dots for the mentee for the mentee. Right? So number one is I would build a network. Number two is I would do as many sessions as possible with my audience. So if I choose to do career counseling with people who are looking at a career shift, who have taken a career break, right? I will, for Muft, I will do it with as many people as possible till I'm able to start generating success stories. Again, that's skill and results, because that will speak. Right? So these are two possible things that I would do. And of course, read a lot. I'm an avid reader, so I would read a lot.
What Mala, you said you will work with those people and interact. Like, what exactly will you do?
I will offer free sessions. I'll be like, hey, like just conversations. I'm traveling in a cab, let's say, with someone. I just start having conversations, which I do a lot with my friends, and they're very annoyed right now with me. Hey, what are you doing right now? Just get in a conversation to understand where they are. And then you will be able to start seeing patterns. For example, let's say Vasudha is my friend and I start talking to her and I'm like, oh, you've been baking? Hey, that is so good. I know this bakery. Do you think you can, supply some cupcakes there? She's like, yeah, maybe. And then, hey, why don't we set some goals?
If you
So it's
really
very
do have a place
informal.
for that, please let me know.
There are lots, but now it is, actually now it's even better. First of all, everybody should create a profile on LinkedIn if you do not have it. LinkedIn.
I do, but it's obsolete.
Yes, we are more active on Facebook and Instagram, which I think is cool. But LinkedIn is a place where you can connect with these professionals, that networking that I spoke about. All right. And start building your profile, start becoming a thought leader, publishing content in areas that you care about. If you care about, let's say, sex education, and you want to position yourself as a counselor there. So you churn out content related to this and establish yourself as a thought leader. And where can you do this? On this professional networking site called LinkedIn. So that could also be something.
The multiple platforms that you suggested, try and reach out to all these different kinds of people from different walks.
Yeah. Yes. And if you can, build your own website. There are really cool platforms called Wix and Squarespace and all of that, which is very easy to do. If you don't need to know coding skills. That could be a personal project.
Okay, that won't be confusing on your LinkedIn page to say that, oh, you're this, or what are you? Kind of a question.
Actually, you know what? This is a very, very good experiment you can do. Initially, people would have only one line to describe themselves. Now the descriptions are also yellow collar. They have multiple words and multiple things that they use to describe themselves. Speaker, author, coach, blah, blah, blah. So you can see that change happening on LinkedIn. And there are lots of short courses on LinkedIn called LinkedIn Learning. That's where I learned how to create effective YouTube videos, right? So do these courses, and once you finish that course, you can add that certification automatically onto your profile. So it's like that one place where everything is there. I'm sure you know how LinkedIn works, but yeah, I'm just putting it out there.
Thank you.
Another interesting thing I noticed, Mala, in your work is that you kept having these very short-term courses for teenagers. So like, for example, photography. You did I think 5 sessions or 7 sessions or something like that for people who wanted to explore. For example, if my son does not know photography, whether he is good at it or not. So you just call an expert and you would, I remember you calling some good, I think DJ, an expert photographer, from various fields. And then whoever was interested would take up that 7-day program and be in the flow and understand if they're really good at it. So that was another very interesting thing you added to this whole concept of career counseling. So that was also
thank you. I'm a big fan of, we should always reach out to the right person for advice. Because I think that is where we have messed up. We all love giving advice, no? Right. So freelance advisors. So
no, even sending those projects that they do to the concerned people, like who are professionals in that industry, it kind of boosts up the self-confidence of the child also, that is being validated by somebody who's something in that industry. I think that's a great cue.
See, again, one thing with sending it to an expert, because I actually worked with professional bakers and all that. The minute you try to give them something, trust me, the people I worked with would shut off immediately, saying that, you're not supposed to do this. You're supposed to follow what I said. They were very close-minded on trying to receive something new or trying to receive input of what I was trying to tell them. It was very annoying when I was working in Lee Meridian. I'm sorry to name the institution, but the chef there would never encourage, more discourage than encourage a person. Many people left because of this particular situation that was going on, and it got to me as well. And after the accident, he kept refusing to talk to me in a proper way. So I had to leave without getting my full training and the full experience of the job. Trust me, I love the work I did, but it was very unsatisfying, especially when you had a boss who would constantly discourage you or try constantly to put down your ideas. And what do I do in places like this? Because this is not the only place that I've worked, and it's not the only person I've seen. There are other people who I've worked with who've also done the same thing. Whenever you try to ask them or to teach you something new, they would put you down and try to make sure that you do not reach to their level. It was very frustrating, and I still do not know what to do about that.
Right. First of all, I'm very sorry you had to go through this experience. I don't think anybody deserves to, but it's happened and you've learned from it. And I'm very happy that you're not bitter to the extent that you don't want to try reaching out again, because that would be very sad. And you would not want anybody to define that for you. Right? So I'm glad you still want to explore and reach out to people. I think it's just a matter of time that you will find the right mentors and probably ask them in a more effective manner at a more suitable time. And that's a formula for you to figure out.
Thank you so much, Mala.
I was thinking in case of Vasudha, it's food, right? It's like bakery products. So you can try it out with your friends. You can, just bake and, explore, just see, you'll get instant feedback from people. I mean, just as a thought, I thought. But what about other things like photography, filmmaking, music? Where do you go? Where do you get your stuff validated? Food is something that people will give you on the spot. The fact that they're buying it means that they like it. But how do you, know you are good at something unless you connect yourself with an expert or take professional help? So anything,
right. Which is why networking is key. The future is all about social capital. Who knows you and who do you know? Social currency. So networking again.
I had one concern, Mala. I think I've written also in that. This entire thing of shadow internship for school children is something that I had thought about a couple of years ago with a friend. Because I think that is the need, because I have a cousin who's done a PhD and telling, I wish I had shadows, which got me into this, and I think it's needed. So that time, what we faced, we actually looked at, different places where they could go and hotel management and stuff like that, people wanted to do. Our concern was safety, which is why we actually dropped the entire thing, but I'm still passionate. I am so glad that I met you. I mean, this is aside because that somebody is doing what I'm passionate about and have wanted to do a couple of years ago. So for us, it was safety, which is why we dropped it. So do you have such concerns that you face?
So pre-pandemic, the pattern, Usha, I totally relate to you, was we kept getting questions like, where can my child intern? Where can my child intern? It was such a helpless feeling because we know there is like a huge requirement, but there's nobody who's doing that. But thanks to the pandemic, everything is online. And there are so many ways to leverage technology to still ensure safety of the child. And the future of work is largely going to be online. Our co-workers are going to be Zoom platform, different softwares that we work with, and it's going to be work from anywhere in the world and all of that. So I think it's just the right time for us to engage in internships with a slightly different model.
Mala, which you had mentioned about that LinkedIn, I just want to go back in that because as a counselor as well, when the young adults or when these teenagers they come, even adults, what I believe is more than the profile, the resume. I have done this, I specialize this, like back-to-back writing. Write a story about yourself. This is what I do to the teenagers or the young adults so that I know them better. Just write your story. And however creative you can be, you can. So that is what I believe, that moving forward with your resumes, there could be one paragraph or page about what is your story all about.
True, absolutely. And if your audience is teenagers or young adults, I would emphasize having also probably a profile on Instagram because that's where they are. So you're not just empowering them and inspiring them through those sessions, but also constantly on a platform that they are engaged at. LinkedIn is for you to build a profile for the outside world. It's like a website for you to network and everything else out there.
More professional
A
networking
professional
then,
presence, yeah. A professional digital presence.
as compared to Facebook, Insta, which are all more social networking sites.
Yes, but some people can make Facebook also work. So if you can do
Right,
that, anything is possible.
True, true.
Mala, while doing career counseling, do you also get into emotional counseling? And, because there may be so many, everybody, I mean, human beings, end of the day are, emotional, and especially that age group when there's so much happening in their life. So do you also get into that part of it?
Only the ones that I am equipped to handle, because I do not come with a psychology background. As in, I haven't studied psychology, right? So only the ones that I can handle, I do. But when I know that it is beyond my scope, I direct them to somebody else who is equipped to handle it. That is one. But yes, just mental health and several things that teenagers struggle with today is crazy, Seema. I mean, you have a teenager, so you would know. I mean, though Aarti, I think, is a very, very sorted kid, but they have their own challenges, which is why we have a support group. You should probably come and attend sometime incognito so that they are not conscious. They are on fire, these teens. They're helping each other out. They're troubleshooting each other's problems. It's absolutely amazing and inspiring. So I think having a safe community of people, because we grew up having deep, meaningful friendships, which is the alien concept to most of them today. Right? So having that safe group is again a value add that we can provide them. I think we place too much emphasis on the fact that we as counselors are the problem solvers. No, we are just facilitators. And our job is to be smart enough to listen, understand, and connect the dots. I think that is our job. Our role has changed.
Hi, Mala. Thank you. It was a very elaborate and enlightening session. And thanks, Seema, for facilitating this one. We had some questions in the Excel sheet. If you want, I can go through them one by one.
Sure.
Mala, are you it's already 8:35? Is it okay?
No problem. And can we do this in the next 5-10 minutes if I may?
Yes,
Because my dog is getting extremely impatient right now. He needs to go for
my
a
family
walk.
too.
Yes, because there are all the people cannot talk, and some have already been discussed already. So we'll just quickly go through it and say yes, no, and then quick.
Yes, Shrivali, go for it.
So how should we venture out changing from one career to another? Because currently we're pursuing one career and a sudden shift to an entire different, like I am an engineer. I want to make psychology as my career, and I am I don't know about anything in this field. So this is my question actually. So
super. So number one is make your yellow collar list. Number two, that shift does not have to be sudden. It can be paced out. You can warm into it. You could probably start with an internship in the role that you're looking for. Test it out, learn the ropes. And then from internship, you can migrate to part-time and then probably full-time. So that would be a great transition.
Okay. What is the scope of a career counselor in an organization like Cognizant or Nokia or Quicker or something? Because people are already working there. You come to my company as a career counselor, and at that venture we are 40 plus. So how do I really take that opportunity to help somebody?
I don't know how it works in these organizations. Okay. However, I would recommend that you connect to people in this organization. Ideally, I think an HR department, to understand what they do in terms of employee engagement, especially if they're losing out people at their 40s. Yes. Who are like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. Right. So what is it that the organization is currently doing? And if you have a value proposition that you can be like, you know what, give me 10 employees. Let me work with them and show you results. Right? I will make sure that they are happy with what they do, but they get some kind of a shift within the organization. So this is how we create opportunities and figure out and make our own market.
Okay. I am interested in working with adolescents and guiding them. In fact, explore starting internship to help them a couple of years. Is it possible for me to do an internship with you?
This is Usha. Yes. It is Usha, yes. Yes to Usha. Yes, Usha, please take my email ID.
Thank you. Yes,
okay.
I'll do that. I'll
Okay,
connect.
what are the various fields that can be opted by a student pursuing PCMB other than IIT, JEE, NEET, SET? Can you guide me
Everything
about
under the
career
sun.
options after completion of MA in clinical psychology for pursuing career in sports psychology, performance improvement? What should we opt, clinical or counseling?
That is really cool. You should actually study sports psychology, and that is such an awesome field to do. But first of all, you should love sport yourself if you want to get into sports psychology, right? Some kind of sport engagement you should have had so that you can better connect with the other sports people.
Okay. Can you guide me about career options after completion of MA in clinical?
Please make your yellow collar list.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Do
I mean,
these-
I can say that, for, various fields that can be opted by a student after pursuing PCMB, I think it's just the list that will help them see where they want to do, what they want to do. Yes.
No, true. Absolutely. That's a starting point. And also, who do they want to help? Like in counseling, you can help teenagers or young adults. You can help people in their 40s. So that will help you understand which kind of industry do you want to get into. So should you be doing market research with corporates? Should you be doing market research with parents and teenagers? So along with what you want to do, who do you want to empower is also a good question to ask.
Okay. Where, how, and whom engages career counselor in an usual scenario? I think they want to say
Schools,
that
companies like Banjara who are doing fabulous work. There's dime a dozen. There's so many. In fact, there's so many new age companies that are coming up. You should actually check out this. I keep promoting their page all the time. Kaha.mind on Instagram. They are into mental health. They are doing fantabulous work. So,
okay.
yeah,
Is there any predefined framework methodology available for career counseling?
What we discussed earlier. I mean, that's my methodology. So that's the framework that I would like to suggest.
Okay. How data related to child intelligence is gathered? More interested in quantitative measurements, how data associated with child interest is gathered? Same question.
Sorry, can you come again with that question?
How data related to child intelligence / interest is gathered? Praveen, he's more interested in quantitative measurements of child intelligence and child interest data.
Data, if it is based on behavior, can be mapped to come up with decisions. But I would need more to go on this. I'm really sorry.
It's so cute.
He's totally getting restless.
Thank you, Mala. Thank you so much.
One last question. Sorry, Seema, one last question. You said you do have internships that we can intern with you if we want to. And if I'm interested, may I know how I can intern with you?
Yes, please. My email ID is martina@ilovemondays.in. Seema also has my email ID. Just send me an email and we can discuss how to take this forward.
Thank you so much, Mala.
Sorry, Mala, I had a question in the doc. I think it's a little long question. I don't think we have time for it. So can I email that question as well to you?
Yes, please, absolutely. I'm really sorry. He's just very...
No, please, Mala. Thank you so much.
much.
We extended it by 40 minutes. And thank you so much once again. I think I'm a huge fan of yours anyway. So thank you for coming. It's such a short notice. I know you were very, very busy. So thanks on behalf of all my classmates. Thank you guys for joining in.
Thank you, Seema. Thank you, Mala, for making.
Thank you so much. Take care.